Welcome again to the TangentCast. We've got a bit of a change this week because Paul's come down with man flu. So I have my good friend James, otherwise known as the Kid, here with me this week. Thank you very much for joining me.
No worries. I've just come back from kind of a mini stag do thing, so I'm a little bit half cut at the moment. So hopefully it won't cause you any problems.
I'm sure we'll be fine. So, how have you been other than going out to the pub and stuff?
Yeah, not bad. I'm kind of in the process of changing jobs at the moment, or day jobs at least. So that's kind of been occupying most of my time. But aside from that, it's not been too bad recently. Just the daily grind, I guess, that everyone goes through.
Yeah, definitely know that feeling. Yeah, I've been okay. Obviously, been holding down the fort the last couple of days since Paul is not feeling very well. So that's been cool. And obviously, as I said to you before we started recording, I'm going to a festival next weekend. So I've been trying to prepare a couple of videos for when I'm away. So that kind of leads into my next question, which is, what have you been playing recently?
Most recently, I finally gotten into Final Fantasy XIV.
Well, a bit late to the party though.
Yeah, I played the original release of it when it came out, and like a lot of people found it was really lacking in stuff to do, so I just kind of lost interest in it, and I just thought I'll give it another shot. So I got back into that on Friday, I guess, and I'm up to about, I don't know, 6 hours or so. Actually really enjoying it. Aside from that, in terms of stuff that's like new releases and things, the most recent thing I've been playing was I did the video on Battlefield 1, the beta of it.
Yeah.
And I've also been playing Mankind
Sorry,
Divided.
sorry to interrupt you, but I think you need to move your mic a little bit more. Sorry.
Oh, how's that?
Yeah, that's better. It's mostly just obviously when you're talking, you can hear your breath more than your voice. Sorry, you were saying about Battlefield. Sorry.
Yeah, I did the video on Battlefield 1, like the beta.
Yeah, you did. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no worries. In terms of new releases, the most recent thing I've played was Mankind Divided, the Deus Ex release.
What are you thinking of it?
It's actually really good, although I'm told I watched Yahtzee's video on it, and apparently he said it was really short. But I'm up to about 15 hours, and I don't think I'm particularly near the end, so I'm not sure whether it's short compared to Human Revolution or whether it's just short in general. But
I mean, I haven't played it yet myself because I just haven't had the time to even think about playing a massive game like that, to be honest. But what I've heard is that the end is very abrupt. It feels like, and according to various rumours and sources going around, that there was more to it that's been cut off and is being made into a second game. There was more, but is now a second game in like a trilogy. So Mankind Divided is number 1, not Human Revolution. So you might not even see the end coming, and then it just ends. From what I've heard, again, this is purely from what I've heard from other people talking about it. So that might be what he meant in that particular video.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, where I'm up to is kind of building up to something. So I don't know if it's like this revelation happens and then they just slice it off at that point.
From what I've heard, it's about 30 hours, so I don't think you've got anything to worry about just yet. I wouldn't call that short, but maybe it just means that, again, it felt short because it just ends and there's no more kind of thing, when it feels like there should be more, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if a game does sort of slice off like that, even if it was, like you say, 30 hours long, you can just think, they've cut this short and trimmed for either to sell you DLC or a sequel.
I mean, from what I've heard, again, this wasn't Eidos, it was Square, so...
Right.
As for myself, I've been playing a few things. For example, today I played StarCraft 2 Ladder for the first time in... I don't even know how long it's been. I don't remember. Haven't even finished the campaign yet, so, there's that as well. But I thought, you know what? I've been watching a lot of esports recently, and as always, I get all starry-eyed looking at these amazing players, like, yeah, that looks so cool, that build looks awesome. And then I play it, and then I remember that I'm bronze.
Yeah, I haven't touched Ladder in quite a long time, actually. I mean, when you say you haven't finished the campaign, have you finished the vanilla campaign?
No, I've not finished the actual campaign of Legacy of the Void yet. No.
Oh, you finished the campaign of Wings of Liberty though, right?
And Heart of the Swarm, just haven't finished Legacy of the Void
right.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got quite far. Alarex just appeared, says that.
You don't have a massive amount to go, I don't think.
No, I've got a feeling I'm approaching the end. I just haven't actually got around to playing it because, as I always am, I'm like a crow. I just get distracted by all sorts of shiny things. So yeah, it was quite funny though because like I found this thing where it puts an overlay on the game to show you like the build order that you're trying to do and like the timings based on the in-game time. So it will say like, oh, pylon at 17 seconds, and obviously it will be counting down to the time, that sort of thing. So I'm like, right, that's exactly what I need, because my problem is, as you saw when we did those videos ages ago, I forget things and I get really distracted and I'm really slow. So I thought if I've got something there reminding me, you've got to build a fucking pylon at this time, it'll be better. And kind of, but I made a horrible mess of this guy's build. It was a pro player called Showtime, and it was quite funny. I made a tweet saying, "Oh, I played SC2 and I made a mess out of Showtime's build," and I added him, and he liked the tweet, and I'm like, "You won't like me very much when you see what I did to your build."
Yeah, I have a tendency to kind of, I don't know, I read through a build or watch a build and then go ahead and try and do it, but I have a tendency to panic. And I just lose any kind of sense of what it was I was trying to do. Yeah,
I mean the overlay helps a little bit, but when things start getting hectic, I did exactly what you said. I panicked, and for example, it's not too bad. It's like, oh, pylon there and then the gateway here, and then when you're waiting for like 5 seconds, 10 seconds between each thing, it's like, yeah, I can manage this. But when it's like, oh, mothership core and then a robo and then this and then this, and I'm just like, stop.
Yeah. Yeah, I can manage like 1 or 2 bases pretty well. I mean, I play Zerg most of the time. And by the time you're trying to manage like inject on 4 bases while trying to monitor what's actually going on with your army, I don't know, my brain just can't focus on that many things at once.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's why I was so mad at Blizzard for getting rid of that change where inject was automatic. They should have kept that in. I'm just like, there was no need to get rid of it. Even pros were like, there's no need. It's not a very skillful thing. It's just muscle memory. And I'm like, oh well. Anyway, we've got a long list of topics, but I want to quickly mention another thing is, I was saying about how I was recording videos for when I'm away next weekend, and I did basically sort of a list of some of my favourite RPGs, basically, and spoiler alert, System Shock 2's on there. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to quickly jump into the game and grab some footage, and it's been a while since I played that game, and I don't remember the controls being that horrible. I'm gonna throw it out there.
It's very stiff, and yeah, I mean, I guess like the early sort of FPS kind of things. I presume it's built on a variant of the Unreal Engine, if I remember right.
Pass, I don't know.
So I think it's a similar sort of setup to the original Deus Ex, which was definitely a modified version of the Unreal Engine, and they're really stiff and clunky, like sort of. I know what you mean. It's hard to describe.
Well, instead of A and D being I'm going to step to the side, it's literally like a turn. You're turning with those buttons, and it's really fucking weird. So that threw me off completely. So I was just like, oh god. So that was fun. Anyway, again, topics.
Yeah,
So,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing a lot of stuff because again, I'm just like a crow. I finished Mother Russia Bleeds. That was good. Basically, Hotline Miami crossed with Streets of Rage. That was pretty fun.
That sounds pretty epic.
Yeah, it's like an old school brawler, just really, really gory and awesome music like you had in Hotline Miami, and lots of drugs as well. So I would recommend. It's good. Anyway, so we have more stuff about the NX. Nintendo refused to tell us what it is, despite the numerous rumours. Like I said to you when we went recording, every week I swear there's something new. I was like, I even said this in the video today. I'm just like, Nintendo, please tell us what this thing is. Just please make it stop. I'm begging you at this point. So basically, I don't know if you've heard any of the rumours about the NX, but the most consistent rumour over the last month or whatever has been that it's some sort of weird hybrid between a handheld and a home console. What that means is up for your imagination, I guess. And there's also been a leaked image, I guess, of like a sort of a docking station arrangement where you put this sort of weird tablet thing in the dock, and then you can play it as like a normal console, and then it's got like detachable controllers that like attach to the side of it, and then you use them as you would normally. And now there's new details allegedly from a artist over at Foxconn, who are apparently the manufacturer of the console, the Chinese company. And basically, according to them, you've got three bits for the NX. You've got like the docking station, and then you've got like the main central unit, and then you've got like the handheld thing itself. So like the main central unit is where all the actual like power is, obviously,
right.
and then the dock has got like the where you put like the SD cards and the hard drive and that sort of thing. But there's no power in that itself. It's just there to plug stuff into, basically. And then obviously you've got the handheld thing, which is kind of like the Shield, where you can stream games from the console. But in itself, it doesn't have that much power. So it doesn't really sound like a handheld in the traditional sense of the word, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds similar to the setup that the Wii U has, really. I mean, it's just a controller with a sort of a wireless monitor crammed into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because this could all be completely made up. We just don't know. Because Nintendo are not even responding to any of these. It's like they don't exist. Any of these leaks happen every week. So it could be just a normal console, but knowing Nintendo, it won't be. It'll be shaped like a duck or something, for all I know.
What's the thing? I mean, I don't know if it was something that necessarily held the Wii U back, but it was something that I guess it was an attempt to make it more broad in its appeal. Was the whole sort of, it was almost like a tablet essentially, but I don't know. I don't like to deal with kind of that level of peripherals and crap. I mean, I like to have just one console and then a controller or a keyboard and mouse or whatever. I think they need to stay away from things that feel gimmicky, because their last two consoles now have been like gimmicky things. Like with the Wii, it was the motion controls. With the Wii U, it was the tablet controller. And I don't know, they need to do something more traditional, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's what I've been saying as well. I've just been saying, they just need to do a normal console. Like normal, like even if they want to give it a weird Nintendo twist, like the controller slightly unusual or something like that, go for it. Just make it a normal console like the GameCube or something like that. Don't go for anything weird, because the Wii U, as you say, it fell down for a number of reasons. One, people thought it was some sort of weird expansion to the Wii because the marketing was so bad. Two, it was really, really underpowered, and because of that, three, it had fuck all third-party support, and all of those things will happen again if the NX is weird.
Which is the thing. I mean, trying to port from any system, the PC or a console-designed game, to Wii U would be next to impossible, because you have this whole API you need to integrate with to split stuff. But it's just, it's you have to be developing with that console in mind, otherwise you can't do jack shit with it.
It's not only that as well. It's like you've got to keep in mind that there's a second screen to work with. So you've got
if I were
develop
for
special
that,
things. Sorry, go.
So yeah, if I were developing for that, I would prefer to just have the controller screen just off and just do everything on the main TV. Yeah. I mean, it does have a normal controller that I think people use for like Pokken Tournament and stuff. I'd say that most people who own a Wii U probably just use that, because you're literally losing nothing by not using that weird tablet thing. Yeah, I mean, unless the particular game you're playing really calls for that, it's just extraneous, and it should have been an optional thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the only game I know of offhand that really used it well was Zombie U, and even then it was just using it as a menu, and obviously it recently came to PC as just Zombie, so clearly there was no need for the second screen because it works perfectly well on PC.
Yeah, I mean, it's like with the DS thing as well. Like, I mean, a lot of the games that were made for the DS didn't even really use both screens. They just used the second screen for a menu system, which was perfectly fine, like in previous games where you could just toggle to the menu screen.
Yeah, I mean, using it as a menu was cool and everything, but again, was just kind of like unnecessary, and like, the second screen's here, we might as well use it. But obviously, if that second screen was there, you wouldn't be like, oh no, where will our menu go?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, the NX is looking weird, to be honest. If this thing is true, it doesn't sound awful,
Oh no, not at all.
I mean, I'm going to wait to see what it looks like, to be honest, and how much it is, and what the specs are. From what we've heard, the rumours on that have been mixed, but it's been rumours that going between it's as powerful as the PS4 or it's as powerful as the Xbox One. I'm like, well, it needs to be as powerful as one of those, because otherwise, forget it.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten away with it for a while. I mean, like, the Wii was roughly equivalent to like a GameCube, I guess, and then the Wii U was again behind the curve in terms of actual power. And they can get away with it for a while as long as you have like an interesting gimmick to keep people interested, but you can't indefinitely release consoles that are behind the curve, because you'll just get a reputation for being the company that releases last generation's technology.
Yeah, pretty much. And most people, it's gonna sell, even if it is shaped like a duck, like I said earlier, because, well, the new Zelda's on it, and to be fair, the new Zelda does look good. So
it does, yeah, I'll give you that. It does look incredible.
It actually looks like a good Zelda game, the first good Zelda game in a while, to be honest. Like, none of them have interested me for a long time, but this one looks like it's actually interesting and not just following the same tired old formula they've been following for the last, 20 years now? 20 years, is it? That sound about right?
Well, I guess the current formula came from, I guess that originated with Ocarina of Time, and that was mid-90s, so it must be getting on for 20 years now, yeah.
Yeah, it's getting on a while. Okay, so with that out of the way, we have some news from our favourite developers, From Software, who obviously have said multiple times that they're done with Dark Souls. Whether that means Bloodborne or not, I don't know. But there were some comments from Hidetaka Miyazaki basically talking about what they're working on at the minute. Obviously, they're working on DLC for Dark Souls 3. Coincidentally, that comes out the day before my birthday, and I'm like, FromSoft, you shouldn't have. Thank you. So there's that. But one of them is something to do with Armored Core. Whether or not that's a remake or a reboot or a sequel, we don't know. But it's something to do with Armored Core, which I think is making a lot of people pretty happy, because they have not released a game on that series in a few years. So, And one of them is a dark fantasy style game that's probably a Souls-esque game, but not Souls. Maybe Bloodborne, maybe not. I don't know.
That'd be sweet.
And something to do with VR as well. So they've got a lot in the pipeline. Miyazaki didn't really give any details. All he really said about one of them is that it's really weird. He kept using the word weird, and I'm like, okay. No offense, Hidetaka, but your games are already weird, so what do you mean by that? Like, weird for you, or weird in general? If it's weird for you, then that's like an ultra level of weird that I'm just like, I'm totally ready for that level of weird.
Yeah, that'd be like David Lynch territory by that point.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see what they're doing. To be honest, I think for the next few years, no matter what they release, I'm like, yeah, I'm down. Unless they release like a football game or something, which I don't see them doing. I'm down.
They haven't done it in the past, so I can't see them doing it now.
No, it'd just be like a really weird thing. Like, yeah, we're gonna make sports games now. So that's what you meant by weird. Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, it sounds like they're not done with the Souls formula. They're probably just not gonna make another game with Souls in the title, if I had to guess. And they're good at it, so I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah.
Another Bloodborne, but release it on PC this time would be wonderful.
That would be, yeah. I'm behind you with that one.
I mean, we'll talk about the PS4 Pro in a bit, but one that was announced, I was just saying, just FromSoft, okay, when this thing comes out in November, release a patch for Bloodborne to make it run at 60 frames per second on the Pro. Thank you. Because, that's the main reason I want it to come out on PC, because I can run at a proper frame rate. Because that game, it's great, but the frame rate just,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been a running issue with the Souls games, is that they have massive frame rate dips, and they I don't know, there is a lot going on in them, and they have these sort of vast environments, but it kind of throws you off a lot. I mean, especially with, was Blighttown Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 2?
That's Dark Souls 1, and I remember I didn't play it at the time, but I remember hearing about the horrible frame rate in that area.
Yeah, I mean, you can go down to sort of 3-4 frames per second in parts of that, and
Jesus.
Obviously you can't keep a game consistently at a good frame rate, but when it's tanking that much, it just
3 frames per second. That's
I might be exaggerating a bit, but it's low.
Yeah, I mean, I heard all about it, and obviously I didn't play the game till it was on sale on PC for like £5. So obviously it was a while after it came out. But I did actually watch Northern Lions' old series of him playing through the original Dark Souls on PS3, and obviously did the whole game. And even like through YouTube, I could just see the frame rate was just struggling, and I'm just like, Jesus, they released a game like this.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I can understand. Yeah, like I say, I can understand a couple of bits where it dips by, a little bit. It would literally start chugging anytime you went in that area, and
God.
It's the sort of thing you would hope they would fix before release, or at least even if you had to strip detail by that point, you would hope they would. But
well, thing is, like, Blighttown is mostly just dark, so I don't really understand what it is about that area.
I think the issue is that area of the game has a lot of background geometry because it's not above ground, so you have these sort of huge walls around it. And even if they're not rendered visibly, I presume it's processing that geometry to some degree.
Well, it has to sort of say to the player, you can't go this way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the more complex environments in the game, and obviously a lot of stuff's made out of wooden planks, and I guess there's a lot of collision data for those particular. I mean, it could have been a lot more optimized just using rectangular collision models instead of these sort of jagged things that a lot of the models appear to have. And it is a very complex environment in terms of the geometry, but they could have optimized it a lot more than they did.
Yeah, and I guess as well, there's a lot of verticality to it, where you've got like enemies dropping on you from above, and you can all see like there's like a million different ladders, and that water wheel probably didn't help as well.
Yeah, I mean, anytime anything is interacting with that, just because, I mean, I presume it disables collision as it goes over the top, and you have to sort of the flip over of the different sort of.
I would assume so, yeah.
But I mean, I'm thinking off the top of my head here, but in terms of the mathematics involved with tracking that thing as it disables and enables on the other side, at the same time other things are colliding with it, it could get very complicated.
Yeah, it's true. But back on topic for a second. So we went on a massive tangent. But that's why this podcast is called the TangentCast, because this is the theme with us. Trust me. So you're fitting right in. Don't worry. I'm interested. I really hope they do another Bloodborne, as I said. And yeah, all sounds good to me. Next thing is YouTube Heroes. It was funny because I think I got back from work. When did this whole thing happen? Hold on 1 second.
It was less than a week. It was definitely this week.
Yeah, it was Wednesday or Thursday, I think it was. So I got back from work, and I was checking the RGT Twitter and all this other stuff that I usually do when I get in from work, and everyone was talking about YouTube Heroes, and I was like, the fuck did I miss? I don't like everything. Something had just exploded while I was at work. I was like, what's YouTube Heroes? I don't understand. I didn't have time to look into it that day, but the next day I did do a video on it because I saw what it was, and I was just like, the fuck is this? I mean, I doubt anyone listening to this hasn't heard, because it was like its own little mini apocalypse, but just in case, basically YouTube continues their theme of refusing to do any work themselves and wanting to automate everything, and refusing to take a direct approach when a direct approach is probably the most appropriate response. And have now going to be doing YouTube Heroes, where basically if you're if you want to work for free for Google, then you can flag inappropriate content. You can add like subtitles and captions to videos, that sort of thing, and as you like do more things, you get more points and level up and then get more power. And the problems really begin when you can mass flag videos and that sort of thing. And this is really exploitative of the users, because someone or a team of someone should be paid to do this. This is moderation, basically, is what they're asking for. But instead of paying a couple of people to do it, they're saying to the YouTube people, do you want to do this for free for internet points? And then obviously there's the worries over censorship and all that nonsense, because you just know that people are gonna flag something because they disagree with the opinion being expressed, or for example, I recently discovered the YouTuber Shoe on Head, who basically critically looks at common feminist arguments and generally tears them to shreds, to be honest. Like, logically, she's like, here's the argument they present, here's why it's wrong. That is the type of content that someone's going to be like, oh, I disagree with you, I'm going to flag your video. And that's the kind of abuse that this thing is ripe for. And someone would say, yeah, but, you don't just get that power, you have to work yourself up to that. And I'm like, yeah, but this is the internet. People are weirdly patient when it comes to this sort of thing. When they've got they want to do something, they will put in a weird amount of work to make it happen sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like sort of starting a kind of YouTube PMC police kind of thing.
Yeah, and like, our community on this channel is pretty good, actually. Most of the time it's just people talking about the video, like the comments are meant for. But we're a small channel in comparison to most, so if you head over to, like, I know PewDiePie's disabled his comments now, but before he did, they were probably a cesspit, which is probably why he disabled them in the first place.
Oh yeah, don't blame him at all for that.
Oh no, I mean, when you've got that many subscribers, it's probably just a mess. But the funny thing is that the official reveal video for YouTube, it just exemplifies why this is such a bad idea. The likes versus dislike ratio was heavily in favour of dislike, and the comments had been turned off. And I'm just like, there you go. That's all you need to see to show you why this is a bad idea, YouTube. For fuck's sake.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what you were saying, it does open itself up a lot to people just flagging videos they don't agree with, or YouTubers they don't like, and just dogpiling them. And I think the response should be evident enough that this is not a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, it's not even just videos, it's like other people's comments as well. So if you see a comment that you don't like, in theory it will help clean up the YouTube comments, and, something does need to be done regarding that. I'm not going to say that, it doesn't need to be cleaned up, because we just spent the last 2 minutes saying how horrible it can be sometimes. But this is not the right way to do it. You need to get a team of interns or whatever just to do this properly, because, there's also a set of rules so that make sure that people don't abuse the system. So you've got moderators, moderating the moderators. And I'm like, okay, so if you've got this team of people to moderate the moderators, why don't they just moderate instead? Like, or is it just going to be another robot, like with everything else on fucking YouTube that is important, like copyright and everything else? It's probably going to be left to a robot, to be honest. I don't mean to sound cynical, but I've been doing this for a few years now, and if there's a solution that needs a human, YouTube will probably be like, oh, get a robot to do it, it's fine.
I was to say, I think with any kind of moderation like that, you have to have something that is as close to neutral as possible, and I don't think humanity really has that capacity. I mean,
well, someone who isn't being paid doesn't have that capacity. Someone who's being paid can be like, okay, is this comment good or bad? Okay, it's bad, I need to get rid of it. Someone who's just doing it for larks, like, they have no motivation to do a good job. Really.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how emotion and personal politics would come into it. I mean, I'm pretty left-leaning in my politics, so I would naturally be inclined that if somebody is very right-leaning in their comments or their videos, I would have that temptation to flag them and shut them up. But that's really not how it should work.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're all human, we're all flawed, and this is something that people are going to do. As a person, I feel like I can say that. It's like, I wouldn't do this myself because I look at my comments and that's about it. Most of the time, I don't look at other people's comments because most of the time I regret my decision. So
yeah,
I wouldn't do it just for that reason alone. But that doesn't mean there aren't other people who would, because they definitely would.
So. But thinking it leads into it has an effect on politics potentially. I mean, if you have people who have the ability to mass flag people, say you have, in terms of the upcoming US election, YouTube hero who's like, say someone's very pro-Trump or someone's very pro-Clinton, they're going to obviously naturally go flagging each other's views, and you're going to end up with no discussion whatsoever.
That's a good point. I mean, I was thinking of like content creators, but you are right. It could even be like an ad or a trailer for a film that you don't like. I mean, this would kind of be an example of justice being served, but it still wouldn't be right. Like, for example, if Michael Bay's latest shit pile of a film's going to come out, people might mass flag his trailer, and that would be funny, but it wouldn't make it like any less censorship.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think it's important to be informed about what the opposite side to you thinks, and I think
Oh
if
yeah.
the natural response is going to be to try and silence the other side. I mean, I completely disagree with what the current UK government is doing most of the time, but
Yeah.
I need to know about it. And if
Oh
the
yeah.
response from people on the left is going to be to flag people on the right, and people on the right are going to flag people on the left, the people aren't going to hear each other's opinions, and then you're left with assumption, and it would be a mess.
Well, not only that, it's like, I think most reasonable people, they have their opinions, but I myself, if someone challenges my opinions, I love getting into that debate and that discussion with them and hearing why they think the thing that they think, and they might not necessarily change my mind, or they might. It's hard to admit when you're wrong. I'm not going to say it's easy, because it isn't. But, I love that debate of like, okay, here's this other person's opinions. I completely disagree with them, but let's talk about why we think the way that we do. And obviously, some way to do that for me, obviously, is through YouTube, where, I've probably had an unending list of videos at this point, criticising microtransactions in full price games, and every time without fail, there's someone telling me I shouldn't talk about this anymore because I'm whining, or some of a rubbish excuse. And I'm just like, okay.
There's nothing that shouldn't be talked about. Everything should be open for debate.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, and this is kind of like running against that. I'm very much like, everyone is free to say what they want. They're not free from the consequences of saying what they want, but they're free to say it. And this is not that at all.
Yeah, I mean, earlier you mentioned like the modern feminist movement and the kind of worrying thing that's going on with that, with the whole no platforming thing. And that's a dangerous road to go down, and this just seems to be inviting that sort of behaviour. I mean, I don't agree with the feminist movement on everything. I mean, feminism in general, brilliant stuff, but modern feminism and, well, what is called modern feminism, I guess.
Well, you mean like third wave, basically.
Yeah, like the whole sort of well, yeah, I guess third wave is the way to describe it, but the whole thing of silencing people and, not allowing people who you disagree with to speak, and like I said, this just seems silly. It just seems to be inviting that sort of behaviour that if you think this person has the wrong opinion, then you can mass flag them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not everyone's going to abuse it, because, that's not how it's going to work, but enough people are going to abuse it that the system's just going to be broken, because obviously, I don't know how many users there are on YouTube, but there are a lot, and even if 10% of them abuse it, that's a lot, and obviously not everyone's going to use the YouTube service, the YouTube Hero service in the first place, so... oh wait, sorry, it came up for a second about internet connection, but no, it's fine. It seems to be okay. So, we also have some stuff about Street Fighter V. Capcom did a silly, and basically they issued an update on PS4 and PC, but the PC version got something special, a new anti-cheat update, which is fair enough, that is an issue sometimes on PC versions of games, whatever. But the issue is that the update broke the game because it installed something in the System32 folder that ostensibly is a rootkit and malware.
Did they give an explanation as to what this particular, in quotes, feature was supposed to do?
I'm not really sure. I mean, they didn't really say, but the theory among players and the community in general was it's this particular piece of anti-cheat software or whatever was designed to stop people who were trying to get the costumes and colours for the costumes via like this mod or cheat or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know how this particular thing was supposed to stop that from happening, but that's in theory who they were targeting, because obviously they've got microtransactions in this game.
Yeah.
So these people were finding a way around the microtransactions to get colours for their costumes for free, via cheats or whatever. And they shouldn't be doing that, granted. But I would also argue that you shouldn't also be putting something in the System32 folder that is ostensibly malware. So there is that. And,
yeah, it seems like
sorry.
Yeah, it seems like they're implementing their like fraud checks on the client side rather than the server side, and that can get shady.
Yeah, because obviously that's an exploit they've managed to find, where they've somehow managed to write a file to System32. And I'm like, okay, if that technique or hole or whatever gets into the wrong hands, that's not something you want. And not only that, this particular thing was actually quite hard to get rid of. Obviously, the update's been rolled back now. But let's say you installed it before all of this, and you discovered the thing in your folder. You can't just uninstall the game because it will still be there. Yeah. The only way to do it was actually to boot into safe mode and then access the folder that way and delete it manually. So it again was like a malware. Those are really hard to get rid of if they get burrowed in. And yeah, I mean, that's what this was like.
I mean, the System32 folder is very resilient to letting you edit it, and I think you can do it through the PowerShell, but just uninstalling a program is, like you say, it is almost virus-like behavior. If you circumvent any kind of security to put something in there, it's very difficult to get rid of unless you really know what you're doing, and I don't know what I'm doing to that degree.
I mean, I would not mess around with the System32 folder unless I was absolutely sure I knew what I was doing, and I never have, because it's just not. That folder is like, do not touch ever, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I mean, sorry.
Yeah, there's a reason you have access to it, because it is intended. I think you should have access to it because in terms of power users and things like that, there are legitimate reasons to edit the contents of that folder. But for the average user, shoving something in there and not telling him about it is not really particularly agreeable.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you know what you're doing and if you want to mess around with that folder, more power to you. I just don't mess around with it because I don't know what I'm doing. And obviously, Capcom found a way to edit that via this update somehow. And obviously, it broke the game for some configurations. And even if it didn't break the game for you, obviously, people were quite upset that they basically had this rootkit installed on the PC. And to be honest, given that Street Fighter V has been quite a mess for a while, it wasn't really good for multiple reasons. I think a lot of people have uninstalled the game. Yeah, like the game was kind of a bit battered and bruised in that regard anyway, and I think a lot of people probably uninstalled the game and just left it like that because of this, to be honest. I wouldn't really blame them.
Kind of reminds me of, I forget which game it was. It was one of the Rainbow Six games where they... it had some really intense DRM stuff on it.
Oh, I don't know.
It was one of the Rainbow Six, I think one of the Rainbow Six Vegas games.
Hang on, let me do some Google for you while you're talking. Hold on, Rainbow Six.
It had some really intense DRM on it, and then they released a digital version of it, and the DRM was centered around you having a physical disc of it, and eventually they had to release a crack of the game as an official.
Yeah, I just found
workaround.
Literally, I just googled Rainbow Six Vegas DRM, and like the first page of results is Ubisoft uses internet crack to get around its own DRM. And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, it was essentially they built this DRM system, and they did a digital release of it, and they realised they couldn't break their own DRM. It was that hard built into the game.
Yeah.
So they literally Googled. They went online, found a crack for their own game, and released it as an official patch, with no knowledge of what that patch, what else this crack actually did to your system. And I don't think it ended badly that time, but that could have ended so badly.
Well, it ended okay in the fact that no one's PC exploded, but the fact that they had to do this in the first place is bad enough. I mean, Ubisoft have had a pretty bad history, DRM-wise.
Yeah, I mean that I think that kind of situation was kind of symptomatic of the end of disc-based sales versus digital sales, and they really just didn't think ahead. But I don't know, it remains as like a comedic story, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny, and in hindsight, obviously, if this happened now, this would not go down well. I mean, aggressive DRM like this, I mean, DRM still exists, obviously, but this bad DRM doesn't really happen anymore, because obviously every time this happens, it doesn't end well. And it's usually Ubisoft that have done it, because they've done it with Assassin's Creed in the past, and it's just never gone well for them. Was it Assassin's Creed 2 or 4? I don't know, I can't remember. It was one of the good ones. It was fucked over on PC. Because, I don't know.
Yeah, there seems to be like sort of a fad that went on with just requiring accounts for every company. So if you bought a game from Ubisoft, you have to have an Ubisoft account, or EA, you have to have an EA account, and
well, you still do have to do that.
There reaches a point where yeah, you do. To be fair, but I mean, I see what they're going for, but it just becomes a pain in the ass by that point to have to remember passwords for every game you own.
Yeah, I do. I mean, like when I want to log into Origin, which is fairly rare, but you know, it happens. I'm just there for ages. Like, what the fuck is my password for this? I don't remember.
I have no idea what my Origin password is.
Same for Uplay. It's just like, oh yeah, I want to play Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Like the other day, I was like, oh yeah, I should load up Assassin's Creed Syndicate again. What's my password?
I mean, the other thing that makes it more frustrating is DVDs and even CDs have systems built into the technology to allow for copy protection and things like that, and to have, you know, you had CD keys and DVD keys. Why was that not enough? I guess
know.
Yeah, you can crack that system, but is it really worth damaging the experience to try and?
Well, no, that's the thing. That's why I think that kind of fad that was happening for a few years has died down, because look, they were actually driving people to piracy with this, because the people who pirated the game were actually getting a better deal than those people who had bought the game, because they had got it with all the DRM ripped out. It was a much better experience compared to the one that you actually paid for. And it's like, okay, you're already having to beat free here. Don't make it easier for the pirates by going, yeah, not only is it free, you don't have to worry about all this bullshit. So it's like, you know, they probably lost a few people doing that, to be honest, over the years. And especially when we've seen the rise recently of companies like CD Projekt Red, for instance, who have basically just been good guy developer who, you know, have given away bundles of free DLC. They give away DRM free versions of their games and just generally show a level of trust in the consumer, and they have been rewarded a lot. They are seriously well off now. And that just shows that if you treat your customers with respect, that's what you get. If you treat them like they're immediately, oh, you're all going to steal our game if we don't put this horrible DRM in, it's like, well, they probably wouldn't have done, but they probably will now because you pissed them off with this horrible DRM.
Yeah, I mean, and similarly, whatever copy protection you put in, people are eventually going to find a way around it.
I mean, I'm not saying don't protect your stuff. You absolutely should. I'm just saying, like, don't make it so aggressive that someone who's paying for your game gets a lesser experience than someone who's just ripped it off Pirate Bay or whatever.
Well, it's the thing. I mean, it's just don't treat your customers like criminals. I mean, assume innocence first, I guess.
Yeah,
is the thing.
yeah. So I'm saying, like, you know, CG Projekt have done exactly that, and it has worked out for them. Obviously, the Witcher games are the most pirated games around because, well, you know, it's not even piracy technically in the usual sense of the word, because there's no DRM to circumvent or anything. It's just, here's the game. It still is piracy, but you get my point. But they've still attracted lots of people buying the game because, well, they're good games and they treat their customers like people.
Yeah. The thing, I mean, there is kind of a balance between how difficult you make it for somebody to acquire the game legally and how easy it is to acquire it illegally.
Yeah, I mean, services like Netflix and Spotify and Amazon Prime and all these other services have they've shown us that if you make it easy for people to just pay, if that's like one click and I'm watching a film, most people are happy to pay. It's a convenience thing, you know. So, you know, those services are so popular because it's way easier just to go onto Netflix or whatever for most people than it is to go farting around looking for that film that just came out or whatever. You know, and they've shown us that if you offer people an easy way to pay where it's just like a couple of clicks and done, they're happy to do so. So, yeah, it's just silly, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people will always just follow the path of least resistance, so ultimately you want to make the legal path the least resistant path.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, let's finish up with the PS4 Pro. I did mention it earlier in the video, and now I've lost it. There we go. How I was hoping that FromSoft would release a patch for Bloodborne. And as I said, also Microsoft and Sony have been kind of kicking each other in the shins ever since the PS4 Pro release, and Microsoft have been very much reveling in the fact that their upcoming machine is faster than the Pro, or allegedly faster. We don't know the specs, but 60 flops points to it being much faster, as I said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And basically Microsoft made various comments basically saying that the PS4 Pro isn't fast enough for 4K, which, to be fair, they're not wrong.
Yeah.
It's just quite funny, really. And they've also said about how their launch titles for Scorpio are going to render at native 4K, and I'm like, okay, whether or not that's true, we'll see, and how possible that is, I don't know. 60 flops, it depends, to be honest.
Well, it's possible, but it depends what it is you're trying to render at 4K alongside
Exactly.
that kind of the processing power required to. I mean, have they said whether it's 4K at 60 frames per second or is it 4K at like 3 frames per second?
To be honest, I think even.
And
the
if they made
Scorpio,
mention of the frame rate?
No, they haven't. But my guess is, based upon what Sony have been saying for the Pro, is it's going to be 4K 30 frames per second. I don't think you're going to get 60 with the specs that they're going to have. To be honest, like 60 flops is great and all, but it's like, okay, that's real nice, but there are GPUs coming out that have like 12 T-flops, and even they would probably not, even those are the ones that you would need to get 60 FPS on, like The Witcher 3, just for example, at 4K.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it depends what it is you're rendering at that resolution. I mean, you could render 4K with an NES if you wanted, but you would get 1 frame an hour, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, again, Microsoft haven't said because their machine isn't out till holiday 2017, but with all of the PS4 Pro games, they have been 4K 30, basically.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, basically what I hope happens is what Crystal Dynamics are doing with the Rise of the Tomb Raider release on PS4 Pro, is that the Pro version is going to have 3 options to choose from in terms of frame rate and resolution. You can have 4K 30, 1080p locked at 30, and then 1080p high frame rate mode where it's going to be unlocked, and in theory could go up to 60, but they've said, don't expect solid 60. Sometimes it might go down to like 45 frames per second or something like that, but it will be just unlocked frame rate to be for you to have, basically. So what that tells me, obviously, is like, that's really cool. I hope more games do that. I've been saying that more games should give those kind of options to console gamers for ages, but also that tells me that the Pro is not even good enough to get 1080p 60 solid on most games.
You would hope that a console that's offering 4K would be able to do 60 frames per second 1080p. Is 1080p even the term now? Is it just because there was the whole thing? I'm still in like a 2007 mindset where it was 1080i and 1080p. Is that still the correct term?
So, yeah, I mean, I'd say 1080p is the correct term. That seems to be the one that most people kind of default to when describing like the sort of target resolution. Yeah, I mean, 1080i is not really a thing anymore. That's more like for old cameras and things, but 1080p.
Yeah, it was like emulated 1080p as far as I think it was they had interleaved scan lines, so it was you had 2 of every other pixel or something. It was a whole weird thing.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's kind of how the PS4 Pro is achieving 4K, is with checkerboard rendering, where they're only rendering, so you've got like a square. They're going to render the squares in the left and right corners, and then they're going to swap to the other squares next second, and somehow it tricks your eye into not seeing the gaps in the thing, and that's how they're doing 4K. So it's not actually rendering 4K because it's not rendering that many pixels. So that's apparently that's how they're doing it. I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, but yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be sold on that. I mean, it's just it's simulating the effect, but I mean, given the difference between like HD, or what we used to call HD upscaling, and true HD, the difference is very noticeable on a lot of TVs.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, also to really truly enjoy these consoles, you're going to need a 4K TV, which is a big ask for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, you can get 4K TVs sub £1,000 now, but I mean, who has £1,000 to spend on a TV?
Well, it's like, you might have £1,000 to spend on a TV, but then you've also got to spend £350 on the console itself.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to how bothered people are about having a 4K console or PC or whatever. I mean, yeah, if you have the money to spend, then you'll go for the best available, but is the difference...
Well, to be honest, it's like, if you've got £1,500 kicking around, you could buy an absolute monster of a PC for that money.
Oh, yeah.
Just get two 1080s, a good CPU, 16 gigs of RAM, sorted.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the average person isn't going to spend that, though. That's the thing. For what is essentially a perceptibly marginal increase in quality.
Yeah, I mean, the Pro looks cool-ish. I'm interested to see what happens, simply because, like, as I said, the Rise of the Tomb Raider thing points to an interesting change that we might see more customizability in the console space of being able to choose what frame rate you want, being able to choose what resolution you want. As I said, I've been saying they should do that for a long time. Because if I could choose to play Bloodborne, just for example, at 720p, but have it 60 frames per second, I would probably play it like that, because that game, frame rate is more important. So, for some people, they would also agree and like to play it that way. That's what I'm interested in with the Pro, because it might signal a change in the industry. But with the Scorpio, I'm more interested because, obviously, again, we don't know the whole specs, but if it's as powerful as they say, that could actually be really interesting. On that machine, you probably will get 1080p 60 if they allow for that choice to be made. There's no indication of whether or not they're gonna, but let's say they do. It'd be silly not to, but companies do silly things all the time. But let's just say they did do that, then to be honest, like, if they're roughly the same cost, the PS4 Pro and the Scorpio, you're just going to go with the Scorpio, even if you're like a die-hard Sony person, because if the Xbox Scorpio has the games, it's like, well, this one is more value, because I can even if I don't have a 4K TV, I can still get 60 frames per second on a console.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in terms of whenever there's a new console generation, I will tend to go with whichever has the more games I want to play rather than which has the better technology. I mean, this generation I went with the Xbox One because there just happened to be more games I wanted to play at the time. In terms of how time's progressed, I probably should have gone with the PS4 because as time's gone on, there's been more PS4 exclusives that have come out.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if you'd said at the time that I went with Xbox One, the PS4 can do this, or the PS4 has a slightly higher resolution, I'll still go with whichever one has the games I want to play.
To be honest, I think most people feel that way, although, frame rate is important, as we've shown. It's become more and more highlighted, I guess, in the discussion about console games, which is good, because it's definitely demanding more power from the console manufacturers. But for most people, it's like, okay, which one has the games I want? If it's this one, I'll get that one. If it's that one, I'll get that one. Obviously, the PS4 has done very well for itself, and the fact that the games do tend to run better, not always, there are some variants, but most of the time they run better, is obviously helped as well, and maybe convert some Xbox fans. But also the fact that, to be honest, there's not that many exclusives for either machine. It's like, for Xbox, there's Halo.
Yeah.
Sunset Overdrive as well. And Master Chief Collection. I think that's it.
Did Dead Rising 3 ever come out on PS4? I think it might have done.
No, wait, did it? I know it came out on PC.
Or maybe it was PC that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, on Dead Rising 3. Yeah, it's only Xbox and PC. So in my mind, a game that's also out on PC isn't really an exclusive. It's a console exclusive. So if you count those, you've also got a few more. You've got Dead Rising 3. You've got Rise Son of Rome. What else have you got? You've got Gears of War 4, obviously. You've got... It's not out yet, but Scalebound is coming out next year. That's going to be Xbox and PC only. If you count those, there is a few more from Microsoft, but a true console exclusive, at least in my mind, is one that you can only get on the console.
Yeah, something like...
Maybe I'm being a bit too hardline on that, but that's usually what I mean when I say exclusive.
Well, that is what an exclusive is. Like something like The Last of Us, which was PS3 only. I think it's been redone for PS4 now.
Yeah. It was, but that's still a Sony, a PlayStation exclusive,
Yeah.
It's never going to come out on PC as much as I want it to. And same for Bloodborne, again, as much as I want it to, that's never going to come out on PC because, Sony hold on to their exclusives really, really tightly most of the time. I mean, Street Fighter 5, it's probably one of the few examples because that's on PC as well. But I guess Capcom had enough money to convince them that it needs to come out on PC.
I suppose the issue with Xbox is that because it's the same company as Windows, there's always going to be sort of leakage between their console there.
I mean, I'm not against them releasing all the games on PC. I'm actually really happy about that because it just means that, I can play all these games that I want to play on the PC. For example, Scalebound, I thought that was going to be an Xbox exclusive. Nope, it's coming out on PC. Alright, cool. I'm down. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, it depends how hardline you draw it. But if you do draw it with Xbox and PC, Microsoft do kind of win out in that regard. But a console gamer is obviously not really going to think about that. They're going to think about what games can I only get on this, I guess.
Oh, exactly, yeah. I mean, that's the reason you buy a console, is because you want access to the exclusive stuff.
Yeah. So, the console wars are definitely revived again after a bit of a curb stomp from Sony for the last couple of years, to be honest. And that's a good thing because, I've said this many times, but if a company is not being challenged, they have no reason to innovate because they get lazy.
Well, yeah, it's like any industry, or right up to like governments of countries. There always has to be some kind of challenger, otherwise there's no innovation.
Exactly. So interesting stuff on the horizon, I think, for good old console gaming and for PC gaming as well. I'm looking forward to seeing what AMD are doing with Zen. That's their upcoming CPU that's out next year, I think. That looks pretty interesting. Yeah. Completely off topic, but I'm thinking of upgrading soon. I'm really tempted to get a 1070, but I shouldn't because that's a lot of money.
It is, yeah. I mean, I'm still working with the current, for anyone still listening at this point. Now we're kind of post video stuff. The graphics card that you guys supplied me with recently, is it? I still don't know what card it is.
It was Paul that gave it to you. Was it 370?
No, it's a 200 series.
280?
It might be a 280, but it's not.
Yeah, because I've got the 290X on top of my wardrobe right now, so it's probably the 280.
Because it's an absolute beast. I haven't found anything. Well, actually, no. The new Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, does push it.
But
up until that point,
it's probably the VRAM. I think it's only 4.
It's 4 gigs, yeah, and it's an absolute beast. And I think at this point, I can't really justify going up to a 1070 or a 1080 for the price it costs.
Yeah, I mean, for you're probably fine. I mean, I've got a 780 Ti myself, so it runs okay, but it's starting to show its age a little bit. And the 1070 just looks really tasty. So I was just like, but I was like, I could also get a 480, and that would actually be pretty decent. And then if I want, I can get a second one.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's us done for this week. The viewers have got a treat. We usually finish about 40 minutes, but we've managed to ramble on for almost an hour.
Oh, bloody hell, yeah. I've just looked at the time.
So yeah, it's interesting to get out of a voice because obviously, you're a game developer yourself, so it's interesting to kind of get your perspective on the consoles and that sort of thing. So yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe you should join me and Paul on the podcast sometime in the future. That would be good, I think.
Yeah, no worries. Give me a shout whenever you want to do it, and we'll do it.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. If you stuck around with us for the entire hour, thank you. And we'll, me and Paul, hopefully he's alive by then. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Yep. See you guys.